Welcome to Bookshelved.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here, and we have headphones on.
We do have headphones on. It's
two
not
different
just a
mics.
big head.
I know. Let us know, YouTubers, how we look. If we
Yeah.
look goofy, don't tell us.
Or do we look cool? Because I think we look cool.
And official.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is actually a podcast.
But welcome back, everyone. We're really excited to be here this week. We have some fun stuff to talk about.
Yes. Some drama. Maybe not drama.
We just want to talk about some things that we're seeing going around the bookverse this week and kind of the last couple weeks.
But we are Switzerland.
Yes, we're Switzerland here.
Honestly, I feel like that's why this is so good for us, because we have different opinions on a lot of stuff. But we have some mutual ground.
Yeah. I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
This is going to be good because I think this is a topic that you know a little bit more about and you're more well-versed with her catalog of books, where I've only read a couple. We should probably say what we're talking about. This week we're going to be talking about Colleen Hoover.
Colleen Hoover.
Yes.
The woman
that
got me into reading.
I know. That's what she dove into. I mean, I think it's a lot of people's first books that they read because she's so well known.
Yes.
And her books are everywhere and she's all over TikTok.
Book Talk took her career to a new level.
It really did. And I heard that we won't get into it yet.
Yeah.
We have stuff. We're
going to
get there.
We have our intro stuff to cover first.
What we are going to be talking about Colleen Hoover. If you are in the bookverse and you go on to Bookstagram and stuff, you've probably been seeing she's getting some heat lately, and we're going to talk all about it. I know. Yeah. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about some other stuff too, but that's going to be our main topic today.
Our meat and potatoes of the day.
Yes.
But for starters, you finished a book today.
I did.
What's
I finished 2 books this week. The one I finished today is called Indigo Ridge, and I wanted to talk about it.
No big deal. Back up for a second. 2 books this week.
One of those was an audiobook. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One of them was an audiobook.
So 1.5. No, I'm just kidding. 2 books nonetheless. Okay, so what did you read this week?
So the audiobook I listened to was Bride by Ellie Hazelwood. And I kind of messed up listening to that one because we've mentioned before that I bind books, and I had a lot of work to do with bookbinding, and I just needed an audiobook, and I clicked on that one. And then I was halfway through it, and I was like, shit, that was going to be our book next month. And I just flew through it in a day and a half. I finished it. I was I got to Danielle, and I was like, oops.
You're so I messed up this week. But that's okay. How was it?
Yeah. It was really good. There's some things in there that it's about vampires and werewolves, right? And most vampire and werewolf books do not talk about I don't know, werewolf sex, the stuff about it. So there's this isn't a spoiler, but you know how when dogs have sex, they get stuck together? That shit happens in this book.
Oh my god.
Dude, I'm not lying.
I really want to know where she was coming from, why she decided to put that in there.
It happens, but as humans. And he calls it his knob or something.
That's so funny. My boyfriend's gamer tag is knobhead.
Don't read that book. Do not. There's this part in there, and this is just a sex scene, so it doesn't ruin anything, but it's she was the perfect fit for my knob or something like that. And I was please don't say knob again. I think that's what it's called, a knob.
Is she trying to make these smutty scenes hot?
Yeah.
And she just failed, or was it still kind of hot?
It was not hot. I was just like, when she said that, it literally burst out laughing, and I was like, ah, like,
What the?
like straight out of like two dogs having sex, getting stuck
Oh my
together,
gosh,
and then
Allie, no.
yeah, and he's like, tell me why we get stuck together. She's like, so your semen stays inside me. Dude,
I thought it was the perfect knob
oh,
situation though, so they shouldn't be getting
I'm like
stuck.
crying laughing. This is
You are.
hilarious. This one's gonna be rated R. We're gonna have a like disclaimer
Yeah.
out because we were talking about knobs. Oh.
No.
I hope that's the term, but it's literally like a knob. I'm pretty sure that's what she said it was.
All right.
Died. Dead.
So,
Anyways,
Bride
so that was one
summed
book.
up to knobs.
Yeah, that was one book. And then I finished Indigo Ridge, which I read on my Kindle, and that one was actually really good, and I think you would really enjoy it.
Okay.
Is
it over here?
No, it reminds me of Lucy Score's series. Yeah.
Okay.
The main
Is
character.
it a standalone?
No, it's a companion, so they're all standalones, but this is the main character is a cop, and she moves to this small town that she kind of grew up in, but she never lived there. And she ends up meeting this guy the first night that she's there at a bar, and they hook up thinking that they're both tourists and they'll never see each other again. And then they find out that they both are again living in that city. It's a little town in Montana, and it's not like Grumpy Sunshine. It's just like, shit, we thought this was gonna be a one night stand. Now we see each other, and then they were just so like pulled to each other, and it's really good. And it's got like this thriller mystery mixed into it. So you know how like the first book in the Lucy Score series has Things We Never Got Over.
I can never remember that title, and it's my favorite book.
I know. Things We Never Got Over. How there was a little bit of a not mystery, but like a thriller aspect to it, where like somebody was kidnapped or some crap like that. So it was like that, but it was so good. I finished it today, and I
like that.
Honestly liked it more than Things We Never Got Over, because we've talked about how I don't like the...
I know, you weren't impressed with it.
Yeah, I liked it. I just don't like that Grumpy Sunshine vibe where the grumpy guy is a dick.
Yeah. I'll have to read it. I'll just add it to the TBR.
I know. Yeah. I think there's like 5 books in this series or something like that. It's a lot.
I can't do another series right now. I am fully involved with ACOTAR.
ACOTAR, yeah.
What is it now? ACOMAF?
Yeah, ACOMAF. A Court of Mist and Fury, yeah.
Yeah, I put a lot of work in this last week, and I'm on page like 4 something now. Good. And I was on page 60 when we recorded last week. So
I know you've done good this week, but you know what cracks me up is Things We Never Got Over is really long, and you said you read it in like a day and a half, and then this one you're like, it's 600 pages.
I know. It's like when
it's a lot harder to read. Not harder to read, but it's a lot. It's more mentally taxing.
Yeah, it's overwhelming to get into, because I'm like, oh my god, I still have so much to read.
And this is your first time reading fantasy.
Yes, but it's been pretty seamless. Honestly, it hasn't been too hard to, other than trying to pronounce words.
Yeah.
And the names, because whenever it comes up, I'm saying it in a different way until one sticks. But yeah, I know. I'm getting used to it. I'm loving it right now. Yeah. And I have kind of a unpopular opinion. And if you're on this, I'm not spoiling anything that you haven't already seen on Instagram. But I love Recent. Like, love Recent. But I don't fully hate Tamlin.
Oh, you mentioned this, and we almost started talking about it, but we were like, no, let's save it for the podcast.
Yeah, I'm like, it is hard to hang out with you.
I know. I can't believe... Okay, go ahead.
Well...
Why?
I'm going to save some of this information because we're going to have an episode in the future of just diving into it. But long story short, what he did to make her not want to be there, I understand her side of just that trapped feeling and not wanting to relive that. But I understand why he did it. And, like, in the real world, I feel like it's nothing that therapy couldn't fix.
Stop. This is why you like these darker romance books. Like,
I wouldn't
therapy. Not a big
I wouldn't
deal.
say dark romance because his intention was so that she doesn't have to go through what she went through again.
Yeah.
And he unknowingly made her go through that again. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little extreme. And I also feel like the way that Sarah is writing the second book, it was like from the beginning, Tamlin was just a darker character than he was in the first book.
Yeah, and honestly, in the first book, everybody loves Tamlin and stuff. We're going to have to put up a spoiler for YouTubers being like, if you haven't read, we'll move on. But sorry, Spotify.
Yeah.
But,
mild spoiler, but not full spoiler.
Yeah, it's just...
Rosebud.
I told you.
Before we started this, Amanda was like, the rosebuds are so cute, but they suck when they fall apart. And it fell apart.
And you ate it.
No, I spit it back out.
I love it.
This is another giggly episode, and I love it.
It's a good thing, because we had technical difficulties once again, so at least it didn't ruin our mood.
It'll be kind of a surprise when we don't have technical difficulties.
And we can just hit the button and go to town.
Oh my gosh.
Great.
It's a dream.
No, I get it. Tamlin, I actually really enjoyed him in the first book, and then the second book, I immediately, like, obviously followed the way they want you to follow the story and not like him, but I've seen so many people online defending him and being like, but I will say, when I annotate my books, and I was looking at my annotations the other day, and I wrote in there, I want Tamlin to get his happy ending. Like, I don't think he's horribly bad. Like, completely bad. Like, he had his intentions and stuff, and they were in a good faith.
And that's another thing about his intentions, which I won't get into.
We're already talking about it too much.
Yes.
If we're going to have an episode on it, but go ahead.
We're going to pause there. And just know that there's more A Court of Thorns and Roses stuff coming. Let us know in the comments if you do want us to go full deep dive.
Yeah, like, is that something you guys want to hear? Or
yeah, because I would love to talk about it. And every time I see you, Amanda, I hold myself back purely for podcast content. I know. So if people don't want an episode, then I can talk to you about my feelings. But until then,
when we meet up for our
gatekeeping this information.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I only have like 200 pages left. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm currently reading, other than our book of the month.
Which we're both going to start like today or tomorrow.
Yes, I know. We have to like wait until the week before just because we'll read it too quick.
I know, and I'll forget everything. But
yes,
a reminder to everyone, our book this month is The Golden Couple, if you have not heard that in the first episode.
Yeah. I've heard from a couple of people that it's pretty easy to get into.
Good.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll take too long to read for anybody.
Yeah, and it's not a long one or anything, so I think I'm excited because I need to switch up my genres a little bit. I've been stuck in...
Yeah, my mom is like, why did you guys choose that one? And I was like, well, I kind of chose it because it's different than what I normally read, and figured our book of the month could help expand our horizons a bit.
Yeah, our book next month is going to do that too, which I'm excited about, but we'll announce it next week.
Yeah, we're going to hold that one close to our chest. Yeah. Okay.
So my current read is still the same one from last week. I am reading Wildfire still.
Yes.
And
are you like on the same page from when I saw you?
I'm a few pages ahead. Yeah.
Amanda and I went on a date the other week to read our books, and you were having a really hard time just staying
focused.
Yes.
Yeah, it's It's
except
good.
the one page that they had the friends in.
I know. If you read Icebreaker, the book before this, it's a very big friend group, and that's what I loved about it. And then this second book, one person from that friend group goes off to a summer camp, and the whole thing is at the summer camp. So they're not with all these friends that you like grew to love in the first book, and I'm pretty disappointed with that. And though like 2 or 3 pages that I really enjoyed, he happened to go home for like a day, and he was back with the friend group, and I was giggling and I loved it. And then he went back to camp.
You're like, I'm finally starting to like it. Oh, he just left.
Yeah, I'm like, dang it. Shit. But yeah, I'll get through it hopefully by the end of the month.
Yeah, it'll happen.
It's like the 11th.
Yeah, something like that. I guess when this is released, it'll be later.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully it'll be finished. But whatever.
Yeah.
You won't DNF it.
No, it's not that bad.
It sucks because when you were first telling me about it with the whole summer camp thing, that's like such a recipe for a good book.
Yeah, a good, cozy, wholesome one.
Yeah. Is this the second book that you've ever read by this author?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe the next book of the series is better to make up for this, but
yeah, and it's about a character that I really enjoy, so I'm hoping
the next one.
Yeah, the next one. Yeah, so I'll read it. Yeah.
Have you seen anything like on Bookstagram about people's opinions on this book?
This one? Yeah. Someone said it was the worst book they read last year. I saw that and I was like, shit.
Like, this is not looking good.
Yeah. I was like, oh, well, okay.
It's okay.
I don't think it's the worst book I've ever read, but
that's good. They can't all be winners.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Should we move on?
Yes.
To the topic of the day.
TOD.
Da-da-da-da. McDonald's.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
All right, start us off.
All right. Colleen Hoover. Some love her, some hate her.
Let's not use the word hate.
Some dislike her.
Yeah.
Obviously, she got me into reading. So I have a special spot in my heart because of that. But more specifically, we'll dive into what prompted this topic for the episode.
Yeah.
So if you're following, I guess, anything book related, you probably saw that Colleen Hoover's books there's a collaboration. I can't remember the name of the nail polish company. It's like Olive and something.
I have a picture. I'll throw the picture up for YouTubers.
Perfect. But it's like 4 of her books and then a nail polish set of 8 colors and like press on that are inspired by the books. And people are pissed about it. And they're upset about the book in general. It Ends With Us is the book that they're upset about. And that book is going to be a movie. And there's a lot of opinions on that. There was a coloring book about the same book.
And the publishers actually pulled that.
Did they?
Because of the hate. So that never actually got released.
And
Olive and June is the nail polish company.
June, yes. So they are the ones, they're the nail polish or the nail company.
Yeah.
And they do collabs with people all the time. And Colleen Hoover is doing a collab with them. And I think that was in Target. I don't know if it's
and like the display has pictures of her books next to the color for that book. So it's got It Ends With Us. It starts with us November 9th. And Heartbones. Yeah.
I have not read Heartbones. I read the other 3. So here, okay. I'm going to share my opinion on It Ends With Us. And I feel like maybe a mild disclaimer for people that feel very passionately about not liking this book. Just disclaimer on this section if this is going to trigger you in any way. This book, without like spoiling it, is about domestic violence. And it is based on her mom, like Colleen Hoover's mom, who was a domestic violence survivor. And this was kind of Colleen Hoover's book for her mom, for there to be a happy ending. And so how it ended is literally the title of the book. Like the domestic violence ends with her, and with the birth of her daughter. And in this book, there's scenes of her being abused by her partner at the time. And ultimately it ends and she realizes that this is abuse. But when it starts, it's like one small thing. And I say small, like it wasn't small, but to her, it seemed like something could be overlooked. And I feel like she did a good job at kind of starting the scene with like, oh, this could be an accident. And then Lily, which is the main character, realizing as time goes on that was just the precursor to more.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that that's relevant for a lot of people that go through domestic violence. And I can't speak for anyone, you know. I've never been in a violent situation personally from a partner. Like mental and emotional abuse, yes. Physical, no. So I don't want to speak for anybody. And that's just where I want to come off soft in this situation. I'm very, I don't know. I want to be very careful with what I'm saying because I am not at all advocating for this person or anything like that. Like the bad guy, essentially. Yeah. So I think in her book, she does a good job of starting with one thing and more things happening, and then Lily, the main character, seeing it and ultimately taking herself out of the situation. And what I've read on the internet is that people feel like Colleen Hoover is glamorizing domestic abuse. And I don't see that because, for example, there's a whole genre of dark romance where people do crazy things to their partner.
And I hate it.
And people, but they're building the character around like loving that. Whereas this, she forgives him at first, but ultimately when she like realizes what's going on, she ends it. And there's no going back to this person at all.
From what I'm seeing though is a lot of people are, and I'm not negating anything you said there, people are upset about how it ended, about how the main character, the guy, is still able to see his kid, have unsupervised visitation with his kids, and like he was forgiven and not really held accountable for his actions.
Yeah. And my opinion about that is, in life, it's ultimately up to the people in that situation. And I know for some people, I'm going to get personal here for a second. Mm-hmm. My parents are divorced, and my dad, X, Y, and Z of why he should not have seen me. Mm-hmm. And my mom had custody over me. And she made the choice that with the help of my grandmother, my dad could see me not for my dad, but for me. So then I didn't grow up not knowing who my dad was. And looking back, part of me, I can't believe my mom did that. but I can't believe it in a sense that as a mother, that must have been a really hard decision for her. And 26 years later, I am so grateful my mom let me see my dad, because there isn't that void of not seeing my dad.
Yeah.
That all being said, these are 2 characters in a book. And I think that because Colleen Hoover is so big right now, that people are dissecting her book. And I feel like that's where all this controversy is coming from, is just because she got so big. Because everyone's going to have an opinion on something. And I don't think that she should be personally hated for how she wrote a book. Because people write way worse stuff and nobody reads it.
Yeah, and that there's freedom of speech. There's freedom to write what you want. And it bothers me because a lot of books are getting banned, and I don't think that should be a case, like, be allowed.
Yeah.
People should be able to write what they want to write. And like you were saying, in the grand scheme of things, her books are not as bad as other books out there that are so popular and people are just eating up. And her books are actually pretty mild compared to those.
Yeah.
And what they're glamorizing in those books.
And I feel like if her book had ended like, oh, he changed and I forgave him because we have a child now, I would probably feel some sort of way about that. And at the end of the day, it's a fiction book.
Yeah, and I've only read It Ends With Us and Verity. So I can't speak to a lot of her other books, but from what I've read online is a lot of her other books, people are saying she glamorizes the abuser in those as well. But I don't know. But I do know in Verity, I did. The ending could kind of be viewed that way. I don't know if this might be a spoiler for people. So if you plan to read Verity, just skip forward. But in Verity, at the end, when she almost kind of found a way to clear the mom's name in the mind of the reader had a choice to choose whether they wanted to believe the mom was innocent or not. But the whole book, the mom was this monster. You know, she did these unspeakable things. Do not read that book if you are pregnant like I did. Horrible idea.
You were pregnant when you read that?
I was pregnant when I read that book. Horrible idea.
Brutal.
Yeah. But I feel like at the end, she kind of came up with a way to clear her name, which this might be how I'm interpreting it, but I didn't like that.
It's like, tell me how it ends kind of
yeah,
thing?
it was like a very manipulative way of thinking for the ending of that. I don't know how to put it.
Just for clarity, are we talking about like Team Manuscript versus Team Letter?
Right.
Okay. What are you?
I'm Team Manuscript.
Same.
Because I think it takes a special kind of crazy to do what she did. To fake that illness and then all this stuff. Like, I'm sorry. To do that, you gotta be
your kids
crazy.
are just growing up.
Right. That's crazy to me.
That's
a crazy book.
I liked that book.
It was honestly, it was good to me. It was a little too much with the ending, I think. But I enjoyed it. Like I said, I didn't like how she did find a way to kind of get the main character away, you know.
Yeah. I can see with that book where some of the talk about her with abuse and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I don't know if what I was saying made sense. Like, tell me if it didn't, because I don't know how to put how I was feeling it towards with that one.
I will say I have heard Colleen Hoover talk about her books, and that is her darkest book.
Yeah, she's never written a book like that. That was her first time.
Yeah. The other books that I read of hers, which I've read a lot of her books.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a while I was like, I want to read every single one of her books. So I just started getting all of them.
Yeah, I didn't like It Ends With Us, so I was like, I'm not going to read any more of her other books. And then my friend Patty sent me Verity, and that's why I read Verity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of her other books that I've read are very typical romance books, in my opinion.
Another side thing, would you categorize them as romance? Because I have seen a lot of people mad that they're getting categorized as romance, which means a lot of young people are reading these books when her book is more contemporary because they're all kind of focused around this abusive.
I don't feel like they're focused around abusiveness. It Ends With Us and Verity are like the exception to that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I could see maybe contemporary romance, but she has young adult books in addition. And if you go onto her website, she has her books like color coded. Is that what you say?
Yeah,
color coded of age ranges, also of what is acceptable for what groups. And she has a bunch of young adult. Like there's this one called Without Merit, and that's a young adult. And yeah, no, like I just, to me, it doesn't feel like there's an underlying abuse in all of her books, like what people are claiming. And I feel like when you have an idea in your head, then you are biased and you go forth with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what's happening here. And I think that she's getting such a bad rep, and she doesn't fully deserve that, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, she's a writer who made big. And this kind of comes back to the nail stuff of like,
yeah, I was just wanting to figure out what your take is on that. Do you think it's wrong for her to have this book? It Ends With Us, and what's the other one? It Starts With Us.
With Us. Which she didn't even want to write that book, by the way. She just wanted It Ends With Us to be a standalone thing for her mom. But the fans were like, we really want to see this direction. And that book was good, but borderline boring because...
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people hate that one.
Yeah, it was good. It gave that, like, nice, like, happiness with it. But it was unnecessary.
But do you think it's wrong for her to have this book that's so centered on a domestic abusive relationship to try to come out with a coloring book about it, and then a nail polish, and finding a way to even get more money out of this story? I don't think a coloring book was tasteful at all. I'm glad they pulled that.
I feel like in general, I don't get the whole coloring book with stuff coming out. I do feel like there was greed behind that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was ill intent, though. I just think there was, I guess, disregard.
Yeah.
Just
the nail polish thing doesn't bother me too much. Only because after seeing the display, when you see the display, it doesn't seem that bad because it's not just for It Ends With Us. The display was for a collection of her books. So they probably picked her top 4 selling books and came out with a nail polish for it.
That's kind of what I was thinking. And I have a few different thoughts on this because, first of all, I forgot to mention this, but I think it would have been smart for her to put a disclaimer on It Ends With Us for people that might be triggered by it. I think that would have maybe solved a lot of conflict with it of like, hey, this happens in this book. If you have an issue with that, then like don't read this book. Back to the nail polish. She's a mom of 3 kids, I think, and is making a lot of money right now. And people are probably coming at her with all these different collabs. And the nail polish, specifically the nail polish, reminded me of the other day when we were taking pictures of what our current reads are. And I was like, my nails are chipped to shit. And people are going to see that. So then, like, the nail polish, I can see where that would come with, like, book readers a little bit. Specifically, people on, like, Book Talk and all that. Because
Bookstagram.
you're going to post pictures and videos. And your nails are going to be in it. And I could see someone wanting to kind of color coordinate with what they're reading.
Yeah.
Not me personally, but I definitely think that's a possibility, especially with young women.
Mm-hmm.
With It Ends With Us and glamorizing that, I agree with you. I think that they just chose her top books and did that. The coloring book, weird. I feel like that is trying to make
grab
something
a young demographic, which is inappropriate.
I think if they like really honed in on It Starts With Us, it would be a different story. Because that is all positive. I mean, unless you really want to like dive into like not liking that, I can't even think of his Ryle. Wanting Ryle to see his kid and all that stuff. Then I guess you could sway that book to be a negative book. I just think that's trying really hard to put this gray cloud on it.
Right.
I just think it's a lot of bias.
Yeah. It's hard for me to form an opinion on something that I just haven't experienced. I've had mental abuse from a partner, but not physical, like you were saying. And so it's hard for me to look at it through that lens and then be opinionated on the matter, you know? And I've, like I said, I've only read a couple of her books, but
you need to read Layla.
You keep telling me this. I have this book
you have to read it.
Right here.
It'll take you a couple of days to read it. And it's just an interesting point of view.
Because she loves the ghost.
Yeah.
The ghost loves her.
Well, it's actually...
Well, actually.
Yeah, just read it, okay?
How about when you start Magnolia Parks, I will read Layla.
Deal. Like, same day.
Okay.
Page 1. Okay.
We'll meet at a coffee shop. You'll start Magnolia Park. I get giddy thinking about you reading Magnolia Parks. It's so good.
For your birthday, I will read Magnolia Parks.
I know. Thank God. That's a long ways away. It better be before that.
I know.
I'm so excited about that.
Well, I don't know. It's going by really quick because you and I are booking our hangout days in June now. We're like, this weekend. Okay, so we're looking into June now.
I know. We're going to do a book retreat, and
yes.
It better not be June.
Yes.
It better be before
Definitely
then.
not. Which, we're going to be doing some bookish things during this little retreat. Some
cute.
Like vlog style, some activities. So if you have any, to the viewers, if you have any content that you would love for us to do
for YouTube
while we have a weekend of just book stuff, let us know, because we want to appease you all.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So if you're someone who only listens on Spotify, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, because we want to do videos other than just the podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it'll be fun. So when we have our little book retreat, we'll have a little vlog for that.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be fun.
That's going to be fun.
I know.
That's going to be just wild. Talk about Bookshelved Unhinged.
Yeah. We need to come up with some clever name for those. It'll be good.
It's going to be fun.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Did you talk about everything, Colleen Hoover, that you wanted to touch on?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I have a special spot, and I think if she had a disclaimer at the beginning of It Ends With Us, there would be a different...
It would be nice, too, if bookstores had disclaimers by her books, too. Maybe that would help alleviate people's, I I don't know, concerns about 13, 14-year-olds reading these books. I saw some teachers saying how they'll see their students who are around that age reading these books and
okay. Like 9-year-olds are on social media.
Right.
And you can see so much worse. So I really just feel like Colleen Hoover is made it in the book world.
And people are pissed about it.
And people are pissed about it.
They will find anything to bitch about. I honestly like what you said, though. There's dark romance books that are way worse.
And those, their intention is to glamorize it.
Yeah, Twisted Love, which is, it's very mild compared to some of the other dark romances out there, from my understanding. There's some pretty gnarly ones. But Twisted Love is one that I read, and I won't continue the series. I think I'm honestly like 75% through the second book, and I'm not going to finish it.
Oh, wow.
But the first book, the guy is psychotic, like obsessive, stalker, not abusive to her, but like there's one point where he legit murders someone in front of her, and they just glossed over it.
That's what I'm talking about.
And then she was like, I love him.
And
I'm like, he just killed a guy. Like,
yeah, that's my whole point with Colleen Hoover, and it ends with us, is that she left his ass. She didn't put up with that anymore. And I don't want to take away from people who have endured mental and emotional abuse either, because and I feel like that's being silenced here.
Yeah.
In a sense, when it comes to the domestic abuse here, because in a lot of books that I've read that aren't Colleen Hoover, there's a lot of mental fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And that's fine in the book world, but a positive story of her leaving this abuse is negative. Yeah. And I think that's where, and I'd be interested for someone to challenge my thoughts on that, because I just can't, I can see the other side slightly, but not fully.
Yeah. And there's another book I was reading that was that's really popular, and Fine Print, I think it was called. And The Fine Print. And it's about, people are gonna be like, why didn't you know more about this? Because I only read like 25%. Okay. So it's about this guy who owns like a theme park, basically. Like, it's basically the Disneyland, but not. And this girl comes in to create this ride, and this whole time he is like hating her, like he's grumpy. It's Grumpy Sunshine, and he's like really rude to her, really mean to her. But and then it shows his like internal dialogue, and his internal dialogue is sexualizing the crap out of her. And then he offers her this job, and she has to like sign this contract, and she's like, he's like mad that she's reading through it all, and he's like trying to rush her, and she's like, I want to read all the fine print. And he goes, you're not good enough for fine print, or you're not worth fine print, or something like that. And like, I just have a really hard time with these types of books. I cannot like the man that is this rude and this mean, and suddenly he's just okay, and we love him, and he's
no, I hear you.
And it's okay if that's like people's thing. Like, that's the great thing about reading, is everybody can find their own taste. There's books out there for everybody. If that's what you're into, that's great. It's just not my cup of tea. And I can't back it up. I can't recommend those books. Like, it's not my thing.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not your cup of tea, but it's someone's.
Yeah.
And that's just what it comes down to, is there's more books in the world than what any one person can read.
Right.
And you can DNF a book and then never talk about it, or just tell someone your feelings, and then
they can decide if they want to read it or not. Yeah.
That is the power of freedom of speech I guess.
Yeah,
and
freedom to read, freedom to write, freedom of literature. Freedom!
America!
On that note, we should probably wrap this up.
Yes.
We're at 45 minutes.
And you were worried we weren't going to have enough to talk about.
I know. I was like, I don't know too much about Colleen Hoover. Can we talk for 20 minutes?
I could have an entire episode on her. And we didn't even get into all my opinions on her. Because Verity... Okay, we should have a poll of Team Manuscript or Team Letter.
Yeah, we'll have a poll up.
I know someone that's Team Letter.
Shut.
I know.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around that.
I've asked him a few times about it, and he's just, yep, Team Letter.
That's wild.
I know. I
love it. Yeah, I want to know what your guys' thoughts are, so comment below if what your thoughts are.
Team Manuscript, Team
Spotify
Letter.
will have a poll up.
Yeah.
For you to vote. And
I want to put one on Instagram too.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll get all the data.
Yeah. Go to all the social media.
All of them. All right, guys. All right. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening and watching and our little ramblings.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Make sure you're following us on social media. I say this every week, but make sure you go and follow us on Instagram.
Yes.
Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah, subscribe to YouTube.
Yes.
And like our episode.
Yeah, because YouTube, that's where you're going to get good stuff. We're going to put some extra stuff on there.
Yeah, it's going to get even better than it is now.
I know. We're appreciating the love and we're excited for it to grow.
It's been so fun. It's been so good for us.
Yes.
I'm loving that.
We're spending a lot of time together and that's what matters. Okay, you guys.
All right. Bye.
We will see you next week. Signing off.